Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
Hey, Ricky, thanks for your time, man. So you're doing the spoken tour. Tell me how that went. It sounds like it was a success, and therefore you've added some more dates, huh?
Well, I did one show,
Yeah.
and it was the best show I ever did, but it was also the worst show I ever did. So
Okay.
it depends how you look, because it was the only show I did.
Right.
But I don't know, man. I'm really excited, a little bit nervous, because this is something that's completely new to me, and the whole idea is actually new to a lot of people. A lot of people have never seen anything like this, and there's never been anything like this. I mean, my inspiration is from Henry Rollins, who's been doing this for a long time, but I've added some different aspects into my show that make it more than me just standing there telling stories, whether it's sort of little sets and videos and photos, and it's something that, when I talk to you about it, I can't help but smile because I'm so excited.
Right. This wasn't like you didn't go in with a script or at least an outline. You're just riffing as you're doing this.
Yes and no. I am writing bullet points, and considering that I leave in the morning and I'm still working on the first part of it, I've got a long ways to go. The problem is, which isn't really a problem, but the issue is that I've got way too much stuff. It's like, I could easily talk for hours on end about all the crazy stuff that happened at the Cat House and never get to Headbangers Ball. But then the people that want to hear about the Nirvana and Alice in Chains and all those things and Headbangers Ball, you got to tell them. And there's also so many aspects of what happened before Cat House, before Headbangers Ball, and so many things that happened after that I also want to get to, because there's just a lot of shows. So I'm writing it down, and then I have to, remove bits and pieces, because there's actually a real lot of crazy stories.
Right. As far as this spoken word tour, are these notes, these bullet points, something that's maybe you're culling from notes from a potential book that you've thought about writing? I mean,
so it's flattering, but everybody has been saying for a long time that I should write a book, because so many people have written books about stuff that may or may not have happened at the Cat House or this or that. And I'm just like, go ahead and write these stories. First of all, most of your stories are not true. There's a lot of books by different bands that I've read that I know for a fact some of these stories are totally fabricated. And I'm like, my true stories are better than most of these. And the problem why I never wrote a book before was I didn't really know, where do I start? Where do I end? How far do I take it? And these stories, because I have a set starting point and I go to a certain point, I'm like, oh, this is what I can do with the book. This is how I can write this and elaborate on it and go a little bit longer and more in depth, because if people think that the Riki Rachtman book is going to be, well, on Headbangers Ball, we had Slayer and Slayer were produced. I can't do that kind of stuff. There's got to be more into it. And, and I'm not, when I say this, I don't say this meaning like my life is so incredible, because it's not. There's a lot of stories about, dealing drugs, going broke, being a car salesman, getting my ass kicked, waking up in handcuffs, thrown up. There's all these stories too that are very humiliating, but I want to tell them, because I want, if by some chance someone gets inspiration from any of my stories, that's incredible, because it is an incredible journey. And it's not just the great stuff that's the journey. It's dealing with the situations of being older and, the haters, because we all know on your sites even that I've got my fine share of haters, but it's what is it like when you deal with that? If I got 1,000 messages that said I did a great job, they love me, and one guy said, you suck, I'm like, oh my God, screw that guy. And then I focus, I'm like, wait, what about these 900 people that said nice things? And it's always the people that are not happy that are most vocal, and how do you deal with that? And I found some interesting ways, and I like sharing these things. I really like doing it.
Right. So you're saying the book isn't necessarily off the shelf. It's could be in the works.
more than it would be. I mean, my goal is to do these 5 shows.
Yeah.
Come back and hopefully have 30 or 40 shows. That's what I'm saying now. I've never done 5 shows. I might get off the road and say, like, this isn't as fun as I thought it was, or
Sure.
it sure would have been more fun if I was 20, you know?
Yeah, right.
But my goal is to do these shows, get these shows so good so I can keep them going, and then take that show and elaborate on it. And I would, after I do these shows, I think that I would like to sit down and start to write it. But what I will not do is hire another writer to tell my story. I'm not going to have somebody else tell it. I'm going to do it myself.
Nice. Yeah. Excellent. What's the status of the podcast? Because I'm a huge fan of that. You know, I remember, in fact, you know, we flew out, my wife and I, to the Monsters of Rock cruise, and I downloaded a bunch of them on an MP3 player. I was just listening to them the whole flight there, and then, you know, in the hotel room, and then on the way back. So really fun stuff in there. You know, I think there's lots of cool stuff in there. And again, that kind of coincides with the spoken word tour and potentially the book as well, you know.
Yeah, with the podcast, I did the podcast myself. I recorded it, I wrote it, I edited it, I downloaded, and all these things that I do myself. I really don't know how to do it. I really don't. But I did it. And the Cat House podcast, I mean, there was a time when I released it and there were like 4 episodes in the top like 6 on iTunes, like regular. I'm like, wow, I didn't get paid for any of this stuff because I didn't have advertising. I just did it and it was really good. And then it was like at 500,000 downloads. And I was like, wow. And then when I decided I was going to do the spoken word, I took all the podcasts down because I realized that I'm going to tell some of these stories in a greater detail. I loved Cat House Hollywood podcast, and I'm sure what I'll do is I'll go into the old episodes and I'll edit them and I'll probably bring them back. I mean, I'd love to do one just to talk about what it's like going on tour, like the real deal about going on tour, you know. I did a post on my Facebook page today, and the Facebook was like, tickets are going fast, we're almost sold out. It wasn't that. It was like, there's a venue that only half the tickets are sold, and it's not even a big venue, and I'm really scared. You know, it's that stuff. It's like, wow, like that's why bands sell merchandise for so much, because clubs take a percentage and that's how you're going to make your money. You know, so I've talked very, very honestly, and I don't try to like blow up like, you know, there's only six tickets left, we're about to sell out. If we're not about to sell out, I'll say, look, we're not about to sell out. Please, everybody, go buy some tickets to my show. I don't know how it's going to go. The only thing I know is if there's only 20 people there, I'm going to get on stage and give a damn good show to 20 people instead of think about the 200 that didn't show up. So, and this is something that's new to everybody. I mean, certain shows, the tickets are selling much better than others. But there's some, like, you know, an afternoon show in Buffalo. I don't know how that's going to go.
Right. Yeah. Nice. I mean, I hope you continue the momentum of this, because I'd really like to see this out in the Northwest somewhere.
That is the goal. It's a little weird for me because, you know, the last things that were close to this was anything that I did under the Cat House name, and anything I ever did under the Cat House name was like not easy. But, you know, when I did the Cat House 30th anniversary, I never told a soul who was going to play, and tickets went on sale, and I sold out the Whiskey and Roxy in minutes, fastest out on the Sunset Strip. So I never had to tell anybody who was going to play until they were there, which made it so much fun. And now this isn't the Cat House. This is Riki Rachtman. So when I put it out there, I'm like, hey, we sold out. It's like, no, we've sold like 10 tickets. I mean, that's not the case. We've sold a lot more tickets. And some of the shows are doing very, very well. But it wasn't as easy as a sellout as the Cat House was. So now I have to realize, in a sense, I'm a new band. You know, I'm going out there and people don't know what I do, and I have to prove myself. And, you know, the Charlotte show was so good that anybody that went to the Charlotte show told everybody, like, you got to see this show. It's not exactly what you think it's going to be.
Nice. Well, that's got to be gratifying, right? Too, just the fact that there's that level of interest.
It's so gratifying. I mean, you know, anything that I've ever done in my career, there was a greater thing behind me. If I was going to do a Guns N' Roses show at the Cat House, I'm on stage introducing the band, but everybody's there to see Guns N' Roses. And if I'm on Headbangers Ball and I'm not bringing on videos or I'm not bringing on bands, nobody cares. Everybody wants to see what else I am doing. Well, here, you know, and that was something that was a little bit weird. And I'll give you an example. I'm at the Charlotte show, and I said something, and somebody yelled something, which they ended up yelling the word Danzig, and they yelled something, and my first reaction was like, "Oh, really?" And I was like going to start to rip the guy to shreds, and I'm like, "Wait a minute! Every single person in this person paid money because they want to hear me talk. That means they're all like supporters."
Right.
And I was like almost jumped on one because it was hard for me to realize, like, hey, everybody here likes me, you know?
Right.
So,
Yeah, they wouldn't have paid to get in if they didn't have some level of love for you.
well, you know, these days people go to a lot of effort to tell somebody that they don't like them. It's like, you know, if I don't like the taste of mayonnaise, I'm not going to get in my car, drive to the supermarket, go to the condiment section, pick up a jar of mayonnaise and tell them I hate them. But if there's something that somebody doesn't like, they're going to go search that person on the internet. They're going to find out where they are. They're going to write on the internet, I don't like you. Really? If there's things that I don't like, they're not in my space. I just totally ignore them, you know?
Sure.
That's the thing. It's like somebody's like, you know, you lost 300 followers. Well, if people write stuff I don't want to read, I just delete it. You know, people are like, well, how are you still on Twitter? You're going to, because there's nothing affecting me on Twitter. If there's bad stuff on Twitter that I don't like, then I'll get rid of it. Right now, I'm just goofing around and having fun.
Are you overly caffeinated at the moment?
Constantly.
I'm just asking because this is a good segue into, I know you were a big Death Wish coffee guy, and then now you have your own Cat House coffee.
Absolutely.
So tell me about that.
You know what the funny thing is? Like, yeah, I'm always caffeinated. I'm caffeinated 24/7. But the truth is, it's when I talk about these shows, I'm so eager to get these done and to go out there and get on stage, because when I was on stage, the feeling that I got was like, and I told Leah, and I was like, in anything I've done in my entire life, nothing comes close to how good I feel right now.
Right.
So I'm eager and I enjoy talking about this. As far as the coffee goes, I worked with Death Wish Coffee for many years, great company. And Leah and I went to Costa Rica one time and we started researching coffee, and I love coffee. And I was offered a licensing deal with a coffee company, and I was like, what if I just do it myself? So me and Leah found a roaster. We came up with a perfect blend that we liked. That was a specialty coffee, that was good coffee. I bought bags. We made stickers. We sat in the living room, put the stickers on. We went to the roaster. Leah grabs the bags from the roaster. She brings them to my office. We ship them out. It's 100% our company, and we only roast 100 bags at a time. So we always make sure that everybody gets fresh coffee, because fresh coffee does make a big difference. And you know, the company is something, it's cathousecoffee.com, and it's something that we do really just because we're having fun and we love coffee. And it's kind of cool to say we own a coffee company, even though it's really not making us money. You know, I love seeing the Cat House brand. You're wearing a Cat House hat. You know, I was the one calling, you know, I own 110% of the worldwide trademark on everything Cat House. Everything that's made, I designed. Everything that's done, I order the shirts. I have a very small staff. And, you know, I take great pride in the Cat House brand, as much as I take pride now in One Foot in the Gutter. You know, there's a girl that showed up at our show that had one foot in the gutter, one fist in the goal tattooed on her arm. And she wasn't a crazy person. And like all those things that are part of, dare I say, my brand, when somebody likes that, whether it's you wearing a hat, somebody drinking my coffee, or getting a tattoo, I can't tell you how good that feels. It is the most flattering thing. And when I go to shows, you know, I went to go see Wasp and Armored Saint, and I'm like, there are like probably 15 Cat House shirts there.
Oh, wow.
And I spoke to an agent and I was like, dude, did you see all the Cat House shirts here? He's like, it's like that at every show. I'm like, you know, that's really cool, because every Cat House shirt came out of my office, you know, folded in my office and sent out. So that brand means a lot to me, whether it's coffee, t-shirts, or whatever.
Yeah. Real quick segue. I know you're wearing a Motorhead shirt, and you were one of the few folks that got some of Lemmy's ashes. You know, what does that mean to you, and where do you have that? I'm sure it's probably in a pretty special place.
It's in a very special place in my house. And when I leave on tour, it'll be in a very special place in my pocket. It was in my pocket when I got married. It was in my pocket when I did my very first show. It is very, very important. Lemmy was, and I will say is, a very incredible person, means a lot to me, was very giving in the way that for some reason he chose to be very supportive of all the things I did. And if I needed him to play the last night at the Cat House, he just did it. He didn't ask for anything. and he was always so kind, and I love their music, and I've always loved their music. Back when I was a kid, I loved Motorhead.
Right.
So to know that I was someone that he thought was very important to him, and you know, when we did the Cat House 30th anniversary, one of the nights we did a tribute to Motorhead, and I did a duet with Shooter Jennings, and we sang "I Ain't No Nice Guy After All." And Todd Singerman, who has been Lemmy's and Motorhead's manager for so long and is actually working with me now, and Todd Singerman stopped me on the steps, and he I'll never forget. And Todd goes, "Lemmy would have been proud after I sang that song." And I just was like, like I just lost it, because I'm a horrible singer, but to know that when he said Lem would have been proud, I was like, wow, like that was really cool. So I had no idea what it was in the mail. I opened it up. It's in this little plastic thing, this bullet, and I was like, oh, here's a bullet that says Lemmy.
Yeah.
And I'm reading it and I'm confused, and I give it to Leah and I'm like, what does this say? And I'm like, she's like, it's Lemmy's ashes in it. And I was like, oh my God, you know, like that. I mean, if the house catches on fire, that's the first thing that goes.
Right. Right. Nice. I was also going to follow up on this because last time I spoke with you, I didn't get a chance to ask you about you were in the GNR November Rain video. How long was the filming for that thing? You know, because you were in the video, so therefore, you know, you probably have a pretty good recollection, I hope, of the length of time that you were on set for that thing.
Forever. Yeah. We started at the Rainbow. Like all the scenes that had everybody at the rain. I just realized I don't have anything about the November Rain video on my show. Okay, I got to add that too. It was forever. We started at the Rainbow, and we had to start filming when the Rainbow was closed. So that means we had to start at 2:00 in the morning. So they shot all the stuff at the Rainbow. I didn't do it, but I just hung out with Axel and all them. And then we went there to a church in LA, and we were waiting all day. And I'm telling you, I don't even know, but it was like a dozen hours. It was just a lot of waiting. And you know, my whole scene is just like, that's all I did in the video. I did that, but I did that in the video that's been seen more than any other music video. I mean, Guns N' Roses, Axl in particular, was always somebody that always took care of his friends. And it was always somebody like, you know, when I watch Guns N' Roses videos, I see all my old friends, because that guy sitting in the crowd is that person. And, oh, and there's Del James, and there's, you know, all these people. So I see all these people that were a big part of the Guns N' Roses camp. And that's one thing that the Guns N' Roses did that was really cool.
Sure. Nice. I know earlier you were mentioning you went and caught the Wasp show and Armored Saint. I know you recently also caught the Amon Amarth tour. Have you seen him? It doesn't sound like you had seen him before. What'd you think? And obviously, you know, that you got Carcass and Obituary on there too.
I was familiar with Carcass. I was familiar with Obituary. And of course, I'd heard Amon Amarth's music. People, it was one of the most fun shows I have been to. I don't remember when I've had so much fun. It was so fun. Now, if I'm going to be old Ricky and go there and say they're Vikings and they've got a hammer and they get everybody in the audience to sit down and row.
Yeah, right.
And they play the song, put your back right back into the oar. But I went there not as the adult cynic. I went there like, you know, the kid that saw Bruce Dickinson fight Eddie and the kid that saw Alice Cooper in the guillotine. I went there because I wanted to have a good time. I had so much fun. And I was looking at my wife, and she's, and I'm like, oh, I wonder how Leah's doing this. She's like, fight. And she was into it. Now, everybody knows that I'm notorious for leaving shows early, but I stayed to the very, very end. I was listening to, I love Amon Amarth. Like, I like Amon Amarth's music. I am not one of those old guys that hates the bands that growl or dark or something. Right. I like them. They make me smile. And I listen to Amon Amarth's music all the time. And now I caught her listening to it. I thought the show, I told Brian Slagle from Metal Blade, I was like, this band is mind blowing. This band's going to be huge, not knowing they were playing the Forum in Los Angeles. I mean, this band is going to be the band you need to see live. And Amon Amarth is a band I will get on an airplane and fly to go see again, because it was that much fun. I loved it. And some of my old peers aren't into it. And I'm like, then you suck, because this was so much like to the point of, I'm gonna buy Amon Amarth t-shirts. I have Amon Amarth albums, and I'm like a huge fan now. And is it silly? Let's come back to Planet Earth and go to the real world for a second. Is it silly when they're talking about Odin and talking about the ocean and talking about the mighty Thor? Hell yes, it is.
Yeah.
But it's cool,
Right.
I mean, guess what? I saw Terrifier, and Art the Clown isn't real either, But if you want to have fun with these Vikings and just go there and like, these guys are real Vikings and this is real Viking metal, then you're going to have a good time. And I cannot wait to see Amon Amarth again.
Right. Yeah, you're right. As you bring up the whole rowing.
Have you ever seen him?
Yeah, I've seen him a couple of times, and I'm going to see him in Portland here, hopefully next Tuesday. So,
dude, how fun is that show?
Yeah, it's fun. But I think the rowing thing, that was also done by Valiant Thor. That was that other band. I don't know who did it first, but you know what I'm saying. I mean,
Valiant Thor's been around for a while, though.
Yeah. But
so
that was interesting too. When I first saw them and people are rowing, I'm like, what the hell's going on here?
I just thought, I wasn't familiar that somebody might have done it before, but oh well. I mean, if you're in a Viking ship, what else can you do? I don't know if you're gonna throw out, raw elk to the audience or anything like that.
Yeah, right.
I had a blast.
Right. Oh, your thoughts on the Wasp set?
Well, to start, I thought Armored Saint blew me away. I was more than surprised. Not that I have ever doubted John Bush, but John Bush was on it and he sounded great. And I thought the Wasp show was fun. I thought it was great. There were certain parts of it to me that seemed a little maybe too polished. Like things flowed too clean. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If you know what I'm saying.
Sure.
But did I think it was good? Yes. Did I stay to the very end? Yes. Did I think Blackie was great? Yes. There were a couple things that were weird. I personally, as much as I liked the show, I thought it was weird that they would play Wasp videos in the background. And while the band is playing, they've got videos with Chris Holmes in it, and I'm like, well, that's kind of weird that they would play their own video behind them, which didn't have any of the guys in the video in the band. And the Chris Holmes breakup is not a positive one. So I thought it was odd to see Chris Holmes in the video behind the Wasp show, but it sure was fun.
Yeah. I just got a couple more and then I'll cut you loose.
No problem.
The big one is the NFL business. I know you're a huge Carolina Panthers fan. I'm a huge Atlanta Falcons fan, even though I'm out in the Northwest. Been so since '86. But what's going on with the Carolina Panthers? They got Mayfield and looks like they just cut him.
They suck. It's as easy as that. I have a Carolina Panthers tattoo. I am not going to be the guy that goes out and says, I love my Panthers. I didn't go to one game this year. I mean, I was a big Cam Newton fan, and if you're not going to be good, at least be showy. And I just think, I don't pay it. I don't even watch the games anymore. I mean, last time I checked, we were like 3-8 or something like that.
Yeah.
And I don't see us getting any better. So unfortunately, when it comes to football, when a team is eliminated from the playoffs really quickly, kind of loses a little bit of luster. Like, I don't watch the game thinking that something great's going to happen. I'm just not watching football anymore. And I hate to say it, but it's true, because the Panthers suck. But am I still a Panthers fan? Yes. And I hope they do something, but I sure have been saying that a lot lately.
I know DJ Will's a huge Panthers fan too.
DJ Will, I love DJ Will. DJ Will and I were the only Carolina Panthers fans, and that was before I ever thought about moving to North Carolina. I always thought that it was weird because DJ Will and I don't know why he became a Carolina Panther fan, but we would go to football, if there was football games, and both of us would be wearing Panthers jerseys, and DJ Will was always a Carolina Panther fan. And I ended up moving to Carolina. And I told him, I'm like, dude, when you want to go to a game, stay at my house. And I still put the invitation out there. Well, if you're ready to come to a game, dude, I'll pick you up from the airport. You can crash at my house. We'll go to a Carolina Panther game. But right now, it's not worth getting a plane ticket to go see the Panthers play.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'd like to wish you luck, but Atlanta's kind of in the same boat. Slightly better, but still in the same boat.
And it was good because Atlanta and Carolina was such a good rivalry.
Right.
Now it's like, well, is it a rivalry to see who sucks the most? I'm just like,
I think the only thing I enjoy is that the Saints aren't having a great year either.
Right. I pay almost no attention to football. I'm a motorsports fan, and all my racing is done for the season. And I watched the World Cup, and I really had a good time until USA was eliminated. And now I don't really know what I'm going to like. I don't know what sports. I guess I can go for my Charlotte Hornets, which aren't great either.
Right.
I'm just waiting for racing to come back.
Yeah. Yeah. So last thing, I know last time I asked you about Danzig, you talked about the Mustaine, how you got ribbing from both of those guys. In thinking back, you've had an opportunity to just kind of, collect your thoughts about, these upcoming spoken word shows. Is there a particular interview that you think is one of the most memorable of your career, be it on Headbangers Ball or otherwise? I know you've also done broadcasting.
I mean, when it comes to interviews, I had a 45-minute sit down with Burt Reynolds. I've interviewed some pretty amazing people in my career through talk radio and everything else. The Burt Reynolds definitely stands out. I mean, I remember interviewing Robert Blake, who was just a fascinating person.
Sure.
But as far as Headbangers Ball, I'd like to think that I don't do interviews on Headbangers Ball. I'd always like to think that I just kind of goof around and give conference. If you want to see, somebody that really knows everything about producers and engineers, I'm not the guy, because I don't even know what a producer and engineer does, and I don't care.
Right.
But that's why I think that the show that stood out the most was Alice in Chains.
Right. The water park.
When it comes to Headbangers Ball, you could be a die-hard, Cannibal Corpse fan, but if you talked about Headbangers Ball, it's like, the Alice in Chains show was the best, because it was. And it was like Alice in Chains Water Park #1. What was the second best Headbangers Ball? Alice in Chains at the Mansion, because it was goofy and it was having fun. And just same thing with Chris Cornell Bowling. Those are shows that were just so much fun, and it was just goofing around. And Pantera was always so much fun, because those guys they just like to party and they just like to have fun. And that's why those shows always stood out to me rather than interviews.
You plan on checking out any of those? I guess they're calling it a Pantera reunion. I mean, I don't know what I'd call it, but I'd still be interested in seeing it. I don't know about yourself.
I'll go to as many shows as I can. I can't wait to go to shows. I love Pantera. Is this Pantera with Dime and Vinny? Nope. Is it Phil and Rex? Yes. Is it Zach, who, in my opinion, would be the only guy to fill those? And he's not filling the shoes. I mean, the other thing is Zach is an incredible guitarist. Zach was also very, very close to Dime, always very close to Dime. And Charlie Benante is just a phenomenal drummer. Right now, and I've said this, I said this on my TikTok, and I've said in interviews for a decade, I said the biggest shame is that kids will never get to see the band Pantera, because Pantera was really one of the best metal bands out there, with the depth of their music, with the different styles that they used, and just being so good. And Dime's guitar and everything about Pantera was so good. Now, you can say, oh, it's a tribute band. Oh, it's not really Pantera. Well, all I know is that there's kids going to those shows that never saw Pantera. And if those kids hear the music and they like the music and they buy the music that they're going to buy in the Pantera catalog is music with Dime and Vin. And they're going to get attracted to Pantera, and maybe they're going to buy Pantera shirts, and maybe we're going to get all these new fans. And if you're telling me that St. Vin and that Dime wouldn't like all these kids seeing this other Pantera, getting turned on to Pantera, because there's not one single person, if you're 13 years old at that show, you're going to find out about Dime. you're going to find
Right.
out about Ben, and you're going to be very, very interested in. There's
Right.
no doubt about it. So it's great for Pantera and it's great for metal.
Yeah. Last question. Is there a particular broadcaster that influenced you that you really looked up to that, you wanted to either emulate or take something from?
I mean, I've always really appreciated Howard Stern. And I've also, when I was a little kid, Wolfman Jack was a DJ that was famous in the 50s. And what Wolfman Jack used to do is Wolfman Jack used to go, and all the kids that are at the drive-in, and I know you're having fun, having a burger, and today here's something from that. And what he used to do is he used to broadcast and make everybody feel like he was part of that party. And that's what I like to do. Whether I'm on Headbangers Ball worldwide, I want everybody to feel like they're at the party. So I always appreciated what he did. And the other people, I can't say that there's anybody that ever influenced me. I listen to different styles of broadcasters all the time when it comes. Paul Harvey, who is, most people don't know who he is, but Paul Harvey knew how to make silence very important. That he would, even when he ended his day, he would say, "Good day," and he would just quiet. Like sometimes silence is so powerful. Instead of being the DJ and having to talk all the time, just letting people just sit and resonate in what you're saying is very important. So there's a lot of people that I like to listen to, but I don't like to listen to your typical DJs. You know what I mean?
Right. Hey, man, best on this spoken word tour. And like I said, I hope to see you out in the Northwest. That'd be awesome to see a Portland date at some point pop up.
Because then I could get all fat on Voodoo Donuts.
You could.
There's nothing more that I would like to do than take this on the road and do much more shows. So
hey,
we'll see if people show up. If people show up, I'll keep on doing more.
Yeah, you make it out to Portland, I'll bring you a box of Voodoo Donuts. Now, thanks for your time. This is going to go up on knac.com, and obviously we love Riki Rachtman. We love all your shows, podcasts, Headbangers Ball.
KNAC is an important part of my life.
Yeah. All right, man. Hey, take care. Thank you for your time, and we'll get you a link.
Thanks, buddy.
Right. Bye.
Take care, man. Thank you.